Most of us know the escalating tension between the two superpowers, the US and China. The ongoing conflicts has divided citizens and political parties, with the Democrats advocating for the funding of Ukraine to defeat Russia, and the conservatives riding up the conflict in China. However, the stakes are higher than ever before, with recent actions like the spy balloon and the latest statement from the Department of Energy regarding the origin of the Covid-19 virus pushing us closer to a potential war. If we fail to address this conflict, the consequences could be catastrophic, affecting the entire citizenry of the world. Join me as we delve deeper into this issue and explore the reasons why we must advocate for solutions to prevent such a catastrophic event rather than fueling rage.
The Western mainstream media, politicians on both sides, and the American public seem to be calling for the escalation of conflict with China. Do the Western civilization believe that the U.S. Navy could starve China of food and energy by simply blockading maritime choke points? Perhaps these people also believe China's economy would collapse if it lost the U.S. market. Is this wishful thinking, a myth, or a probable doom for China? Let's examine. Currently, China shares extensive land borders with Russia and many Central, South and Southeast Asian nations. Many of these nations are part of BRICS: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, with new allies enlisting in Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO, China's economic inner circle. Also, there are small countries allied with China that are major contributors to food, energy, and commodities production. China has an extensive network of pipelines, rails, and roads that connect itself to these nations as part of the OBOR program. A good example is the Power of Siberia 2, Russia's natural gas pipeline diverted from the EU to China. The new pipeline will transport 50 billion cubic meters of gas annually from Russia to China, marking a boost from the 38 billion cubic meter capacity of the original Power of Siberia pipeline, which commenced operations in December 2019. Let's look into their inland cargo freights. In a war with the USA, this transportation network means the land network can fully supply China, because most nations on the Asian continent are indirectly connected to China via the One Belt One Road, OBOR, formerly known as Belt Road Initiative, BRI, network.
Alone accounted for over 46.2% of the overall Belt and Road investments. There was a large drop in 2020, but it has still stood as the biggest receiver of it. But why is China actively investing in this region and not others? And just by how much has China impacted Southeast Asia? Well, to start, we should know that China's BRI is a rather ambitious project that aims to integrate all of Asia and beyond together with rapid and large-scale infrastructural projects that aim to increase trade and position China as the de facto center of global trade. This vision of China involves the integration of the ASEAN states into the program by creating projects that would connect the maritime states with the mainland, bypassing the treacherous Straits of Malacca route with state-of-the-art transportation infrastructures that could sustain the expected volume of trade. And while the BRI alone has seen a massive investment drive, the Chinese investments have been in the region for quite some time already. These developments have, in the past years, given vast aid and helped change economic outlooks for the region, and even still, it has the potential to further upgrade the outlook of the continent. The key destinations for investments in this region are in this graph. This shows that from 2005 to 2019, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Singapore are the three biggest receivers. But it also has given Laos and Vietnam a big chunk as well, which are around $10 billion and $9.5 billion respectively. From 2017 to 2019, it is also showing that investments in Thailand and Cambodia have recently sprung up, which implies that China's investments are rather spreading. Where most of these investments are directed has been in different sectors.
It even extended outside of the Indo-Pacific region.
The New Silk Road is an undertaking of colossal proportions. It includes 2 railway routes crossing Asia and then Europe, one via Russia, Belarus, and Poland, and another further south taking in Central Asia, Iran, and Turkey. There's also a sea link between China and the Mediterranean via the Indian Ocean and the Suez Canal, and new air freight routes, all designed to increase trade volume between China and Europe.
The members are now a global cooperative. Sub-Saharan Africa, 43 nations. North Africa and the Middle East, 18 nations. Europe and Central Asia, 35 nations. East Asia and Pacific, 25 nations. Southeast Asia, 6 nations. Latin America and the Caribbean, 20 nations. One of the latest newcomers to the Belt and Road is Argentina.
The initiative is further bifurcated into the Silk Road Economic Belt and the 21st Century Maritime Silk Road. The former is land-based and refers to the belt that connects China with Central Asia, Eastern, and Western Europe. The latter is sea-based and refers to the road that connects China with Southeast Asia, Central Asia, and Africa. The BRI is a project that was launched in the fall of 2013 as a network of regional infrastructure in a bid to enhance regional connectivity and financial integration. The initiative comprises a network of roads, railways, pipelines, ports, and power grids. The BRI connects China, through trade routes, to different countries in Europe, Central Asia, and Indo-Pacific littoral countries found on the shore of the Indian and the Pacific Ocean. The project will stretch from central China to as far as Venice, Moscow, Rotterdam, and through Africa. So this is an established means that China can source its food, energy, and critical imports from its immediate neighbors. It can also do so throughout the continent. During peacetime, China relies on maritime routes in the South China Sea due to cost effectiveness. We should expect that in wartime, cost consideration is secondary. China must have anticipated the possibility of war because of the West's geopolitical behavior in the past. If an aggressor attempts to block their maritime trade route, China will simply turn to the BRI land routes for supplies. Not to mention that China itself is also a significant food, energy, and commodities producer. Militarily, China also has a formidable and rapidly growing navy. So China isn't just going to watch with folded arms and let the US empire blockade maritime routes. It's reasonable to expect that any Western navies involved in such blockades would do so at great peril, especially those within Chinese missile range. As the world's factory, China can produce almost every type of goods. For those reasons, the Chinese government is confident that their people won't be deprived of most goods even in wartime. On the other hand, imagine a scenario when supplies of Chinese exports to the US and its allies stop. There'll be hyperinflation and nationwide shortage. With over 300 million people struggling for survival, a potential outbreak of riots and civil disobedience may become a widespread scenario in the USA and the West. Some people who have no real grasp of China's technological prowess still believe China only makes cheap and poor quality trinkets. Since most goods sold in the US and its allies are manufactured in China. In a war between the US and China, American retailers will be empty. Many industrial components, key ingredients, and raw materials are made in China. Potentially, US industrial supply chain will also break. This could lead to a domino effect where USD will be less valuable as China, the world's largest trading partner, abandons it. Sure, losing the US market would hurt China, but perhaps it won't be for long. They will recover. China has over 1.4 billion people to absorb its goods and the rest of the world to trade with. And BRICS alone is almost half of the world's population. What if the US blockades and sabotages Chinese shipping so that the rest of the world is also deprived of the goods they need from China? That will be the dumbest move they'll ever commit. The US Navy would have to contend with the navies of the world. Can you imagine the US Navy preventing critical Chinese goods from arriving in Brazil, Iran, South Africa, and many other countries? It will be foolish to believe that these countries will just stand idle by the hegemonic actions of the US. For those reasons, it should be clear why the US blockading shipping routes to starve Chinese people and deny them a supply of energy is an idiotic idea. But more importantly, Americans should worry if their leaders decide to wage war against China. Hopefully, cool-headed, smart politicians on the American side understand that they no longer have the upper hand. They must end this warmongering narrative being pushed by their mainstream media. Because this war, with all the advancement and the sophisticated level of technology, will not be fought in land combat. The threat of thermonuclear devices is real. Pyongyang performed a test on September 3rd, resulting in perfect success, according to the state media. The explosion caused a 6.3 magnitude earthquake, according to the U.S. Geological Survey, USGS, and was estimated to be at least 10 times more powerful than all the previous nuclear tests performed in the country. That was just from a single detonation. Imagine the destruction of hundreds of H-bombs. Not only could it annihilate humanity, but it might also leave the planet Earth uninhabitable for who knows how long. For the sake of humanity, all wars must end. Everyone should aspire for peace. I hope the message from this video helps us understand how important for each of us to advocate for peace. Thanks for watching.